Wow. And today we've got 15 fantastic fragrance clones you're absolutely going to love. I'm telling you guys, whether you're on a budget or not, maybe you just want to save money, maybe you want to see how far you can stretch your dollar, these are really going to push it to the limits here. Because most of these clones here, I would say pretty much all of them, unless I'm kind of missing a couple, are under $50. And that's a stretch for some of them because some of these are, you know, $25, $30, $35, right? So we're looking at a really, really low price range here. But some of the originals of these are, you know, $100, $200+ So depending on where we're at and what we're talking about here, we're talking about some major, major savings. I mean, really, there's savings across the board no matter what. Just the level of it is going to depend on how overpriced the original is for some of these. Because I love designer fragrances, I love niche fragrances, but I think most of us could agree that they're getting to a level of absurdness that would be chalked up to saying, hey, that is overpriced. And not only that, but there are a few discontinued fragrances in here, or at least there are a few clones of discontinued fragrances, which just makes everything so much better. That's yet another argument for clones, for people who are against clones, which is a viewpoint that is understandable. When we're talking discontinued fragrances, right? It's just having that clone is great. Okay, the first one is Fragrance World French Avenue Liquid Brun. Now this one's brand new pretty much, and it's kind of been a little hot one to find, a little bit tricky, and it's kind of elusive. And that's because, again, it's from Fragrance World, who is just pumping stuff out like mad, and it's a clone of Parfums de Marly Altair, okay, which is one of their new releases as well. A really, really nice gourmand vanilla scent. It smells amazing. And it's expensive, right? And it's hard to get on discounters as well. So, you know, if you want a more affordable alternative to that, this is it right here. It smells fantastic. It's really, really nice. I mean, it smells great. And it's just about spot on. It's insane. I mean, the bottle looks really nice as well. Color somewhat matches the bottle of the PDM a little, although not a ton. But I'll tell you what, this one here is nothing short of impressive. I was late to this one. I didn't really get it when it first came out. I was finally placing a big order with Fragrance Buy a little while back and finally got around to throwing this one in. I picked up quite a few clones, this being one of them, and I'm super glad to have it. And, you know, while it's not the best time of year for it right now, coming up into fall and winter time, if I'm craving Altair, good chance I'm just going to throw this one on instead because why not? You know, it's cheaper. I feel like I'm saving money that way somehow. All right, next up we have Harmain Amber Oud Ruby Edition. Now, this is going to be a clone of Baccarat Rouge 540 Extrait. So, you know, again, there are two versions of it, the Eau de Parfum and the Extrait. The difference is going to be almond, or lack thereof in the Eau de Parfum. They introduce almond into the Parfum version or the Extrait version, which actually gives you a bit more to bite onto, for lack of a better term, because the original Eau de Parfum, it's very light, kind of transparent, woody, wispy, and airy, even though it's touted as an absolute beast mode scent, which it is. It's interesting to say the least. It's really bizarre, and it gets people into trouble in the fact that it is so light and airy in terms of its delivery and kind of how it's presented, but it is absolutely beast mode. So people end up over applying it, and then they find out later on that they sprayed too much. And so that almond note added into the Extrait, it gives it more of a punch, it gives it more of a texture. And sometimes, I mean, the Eau de Parfum can even be hard to pick up on because you get nose blindness to it really bad. So it helps the DNA out a lot. I really think that they both should have had almond, but, you know, now they can charge way, way more for the Extrait, and people just feel like they need to buy that instead, which you don't have to. There are clones of the Eau de Parfum. Armaf Untold is a great one. And there are clones of the Extrait, Amber Oud Ruby Edition. So this one does have that almond in here, pushing it in that direction, and it smells great. Now, be forewarned, this DNA, this type of smell is not going to be everybody's friend. So, you know, if you're unsure, be careful with it. You're going to be hard-pressed to find like samples of these clones and stuff. You might just be better off sampling the real deal. But however you go about trying it first, that's going to be up to you. But just be careful. If you're going in for a blind buy on this, it might not work out for you, or it might. Because just because something is cheap or affordable doesn't mean that everybody's going to like it. And that's a common issue with cheapies. You have a low barrier to entry, everybody jumps in not thinking about it, and then they realize, yeah, maybe that wasn't so good. Okay, this next one does have a really, really good high probability of blind buy success, I would say. It's Dumont Nitro Red, the hype beast itself. So again, I was reached out to a couple times saying, hey, we'll send this to you for free. And I just didn't write back. And then eventually I'm like, okay, I do need to get this. So I bought it. It didn't even cost me 30 bucks. So these are really affordable. And when I got it in, I was skeptical going into it. I really was. I will say, I love it. And, you know, it's not just giving in to the hype, because I was fully prepared to really kind of give this one a run for its money if it wasn't going to be good. But I do like it a lot. And I kind of did a short video on this already. I'm going to do a full video on this at some point. But it kind of is yet another hybrid clone where it's not attacking one thing in particular. It's doing a few different things at once. But if you wanted to compare it a little bit to Rasasi Hawas and Victus Aqua, that style, it is in that ballpark. It's just a much more fruity version of those. And it has that bubble gumminess as well, which is not really all that prominent in Hawas. Yes, it is a very sweet, fruity scent, but it's got an actual bubblegum smell. You know, truly it smells like it, and just more so than a lot of the others. Mixed with that fruitiness, it's like a very fruity Invictus, if you wanted to call it that, or a very, very fruity Invictus Aqua. That's kind of where this one is. And it's so much so, and especially with that bubblegumminess, that it just has a slight gourmand facet to it. It's just really addicting stuff. They did a great job. And so because you can get it for such a low price, I mean, I think you can even get it down into the 20s. I might have paid a little bit more than market average for this one. I can't remember, but I think I've seen it $27 before, maybe 25, 30, whatever, somewhere around in that range. I mean, it's just a super low barrier to entry, and it's a massive compliment getter. My wife loves this one as well, so it's one that it's just gonna work for everybody. Really, you don't have to think too much about it. And one of the main things that has propelled this one also is performance. It's a strong performer. So there's a lot to like about Nitro Red. And yes, it was pretty popular, but I still do think it's worth a try. Pretty good stuff that a lot of people would like. Next up, we have Araf Odyssey M, the eau de parfum. So it kind of has a little bit of a iris take on Tom Ford Noir Extreme, essentially. So you get a little bit of that kind of Dior Intense / Gentleman eau de parfum iris mixed with this gourmand, cardamom, edible dessert smell of Tom Ford Noir Extreme. More so the eau de parfum of Noir Extreme. This one doesn't have like the leather accords that the parfum has. So again, kind of a little bit of a hybrid clone, if you want to call it that, just mixing a few things together to kind of arrive at one, you know. So I think that's pretty cool. I do like it. And there aren't really too many clones of Noir Extreme out there, which is kind of weird because it's a really popular one. So yeah, this is kind of a mixture of a few things going on. Yet another really wearable, cooler weather scent that comes in at an affordable price. Next up, we have Paris Corner Wild and Tobacco. It's such a weird name. Not a very good job on the name. Wild and Tobacco. It's just kind of odd. It doesn't really matter though, because really, if you're wearing this out and about and somebody asks you what you're wearing, you're better off to just say, I'm wearing Mancera Red Tobacco. That's what this one smells like, and that sounds a lot better than Wild and Tobacco. So yeah, you know, Mancera, it's always kind of funny because people say, why buy a clone of Mancera when they're already so affordable? You know, and I guess it's a fair point, but you're still looking at the difference between $25 or $30 and $80 or $90. There is a difference there, and you could take that money and put it into a more affordable designer fragrance standalone, or put it into a couple of clones, or whatever it might be. I mean, same thing with, you know, designer fragrances that are around $100, and there are clones of those too. This stuff adds up, guys. I mean, really, if you start doing the math and you see the savings, $40 here, I saved $40 here, I saved another $50 here. ends up to be a pretty big lump sum. So if you are, being very conscious of your budget and your spending, and you just don't want to go crazy expensive and get into debt and go broke with this hobby, these clones are a good way to go, and you could save some money. Next up, we have Grandura Elite Tribal Gold. This is another newer clone that just popped off really well because it is true, it is a clone of Le Mans Elixir. So yes, the Elixir's very, very divisive, and expensive, but now you've got an option that's more affordable, mid $30 range for this one. It's got that honey, it has the tobacco, the vanilla, and some of that lavender, which is being used throughout the line, but it's the honey and tobacco that sets this one off and Le Mans Elixir off, and it just makes that stuff stand out within the line. I mean, tobacco, honey, it's a combination that has been done a lot, but it works every time, and it just gives it a bit more of a mature and sophisticated, classy smell, whereas a lot of the Le Mans fragrances kind of have a bit more of a younger appeal to them. And don't get me wrong, Elixir still does cater to that crowd somewhat as well, but less. So it's a nice step in the right direction. Next up, we have Afnan Tarathi Brown. So this is one of many YSL Tuxedo clones. It's yet another very bizarre thing where I have no idea why there are so many YSL Tuxedo clones. There are so many. And then some have changed names, like it was Alhambra the Tux. Now that went away and now it's back as Alhambra Windsor, probably because of legal battles, I would imagine. That's one of many. There are tons of them out there and I don't know why. I mean, I guess YSL Tuxedo is relatively popular. And I guess they all sell, so that's why every clone brand and even some designer brands are producing them. But it's weird. It's nowhere near as popular as YSL Y, Aventus, Sauvage, and any other popular fragrance, right? But yet it has a lot of clones. Like the clone rate of that one is very high. So don't know what it is about it. Makes it hard to decide on what to buy. Realistic part is just pick one of them, basically. If you're looking at price, go for the lowest one. If you're looking at bottle presentation, pick your favorite. That's kind of going to be the easiest way. Being that I have a channel and I'm kind of trying to guide people in the right direction to help make the right choice, and being that I have pretty much all of the clones of Tuxedo and just a lot of fragrances in general, I feel like it's my job to kind of present you all of the options, hence Tarathi Brown. Again, you can't really go wrong with any of them. If you've seen any talk about a YSL Tuxedo clone, chances are it's probably good, right? Pretty accurate, and so just get it, right? But this is one of them. Make your choice there. This isn't the only good one. There are many. But this DNA itself is really unique. Patchouli, spices, just super fall smelling. It smells like the season of autumn, and it smells absolutely amazing. Very unique. I mean, the DNA itself is. At this point, with all the copycats, maybe not so much unique anymore, just what happened with Aventus. But still, I think you're going to stand out a lot if you wore something within this DNA. Most guys out there aren't going to be wearing stuff like this. Next up, we have Paris Corner Killer Oud Revolution. Really weird name because there's no oud in here at all. This is Amouage Reflection Man, eau de parfum. So good job, Paris Corner, I guess. I don't know why they did that, because it's immediately going to have people go, nope, I don't want it because of oud. And I understand it. I get it. Not everybody likes oud. I don't always like it myself either, but there is not an ounce of it in here. Again, maybe a bit of a woodiness, definitely not an oud. You get a lot of white florals because it's Reflection Man. And it smells absolutely incredible. It's really, really close. And Reflection Man itself is just a very classy, expensive smelling scent. I mean, it's gotten quite a bit of hype. I think it's worth every bit of that. Now, it is expensive. Even the standard eau de parfum is pricey on discounters still. This is an option that's $35 or so, somewhere around in there. Much more affordable. Okay, next up we have Alhambra Hercules. So, can you make a guess, right? See that color of the bottle a little bit, maybe even what's going on front, even the shape. Yeah, everybody knows it's Parfums de Marly Herod. Fantastic tobacco and honey scent. Really good. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, I always tend to overlook Herod. My mind always goes to Leighton, Carlisle, Hobdon in the fall, and then for the fresher ones, Sedley and Greenlee. Those are kind of my go-to PDMs. For whatever reason, Herod, Pegasus, Godolphin, they're hardly ever in the mix, which is a shame because actually all of those are good in their own right. And especially Harrod, it's a really, really good tobacco scent. And I love tobacco fragrances, so it's really weird that I always overlook that one. And again, like typical PDMs, they are pricey and they're hard to get below retail. That's where this one comes in. Much more affordable and a great, great take on Harrod. Okay, next up we have Parfum D'Homme Intense by Fragrance World. Yet another one that you could probably take a pretty good guess on what they're doing here. Dior Homme Intense, the Iris King, at least one of them anyway, right? And I don't think that there really ever been any clone brand clones of this until this. I'm probably wrong, but as far as what's been somewhat popularized, I think this is one of the first. And I'm not talking about, you know, Gentleman Eau de Parfum and, you know, other fragrances, designers that came out after it that do kind of provide their own take. You know, those are out there and they're plentiful. But as far as clone brands go, this is one of the first, I think. So definitely long overdue. Kind of bizarre that it hadn't happened sooner. But Fragrance World, they're coming in and they're stirring the pot and kind of pissing everybody off. It's actually pretty funny. So it gets you really close to that DNA. Nice chalky iris, a bit of a chocolatey feel in here, and then some lavender. Smells fantastic. If you know Dior Homme Intense, you'll know this and you'll appreciate the savings if you don't want to spend a ton. Because Dior Homme Intense has been out for a while and, you know, hasn't really maintained consistent as far as the transitions over time as far as scent. It's kind of been reformulated a little bit. But one thing that has maintained pretty consistent is the price. It hasn't gotten any cheaper. It's actually gotten a bit more expensive. Okay, next up we have Tuscano Leather EDP by Alhambra. So another one that needs no introduction. And I don't know what's going on with these. I think these are going to be rebottled or renamed or something, but they're still going to be out there. Tuscan Leather clone. There are other Tuscan Leather clones as well. You could go with Rasasi La Yukawam, which is a Tuscan Leather clone as well. They're all really good. All right, let's keep it moving with Latafa Kamra Kawawa. So it's kind of like the original, which has a little bit of a similarity to Angel Share. But what they did here is they put in a ton of coffee, a really nice roasted coffee note off the top, which smells amazing. I love coffee. I love coffee fragrances. By default, I'm going to love this one as well. That's really good. It almost has like a cappuccino smell. Like it almost smells like you're walking into Starbucks almost. Like it really has a sweet, you know, doctored up coffee smell. It's addicting. It smells great. It's gourmand. It makes you want to take a drink. This one got a ton of hype when it first came out because the original Kamra is really popular and it's all fizzled out now for the most part. And these are a dime a dozen on discounters. They're easy to get most places and they're back to a normal price range. Okay, another Iris clone up next. We have AAZ Evoke Gold, which is actually a clone of the original Prada L'Homme. So yet another one where people might say, just buy the original Prada L'Homme. Well, you can if you want. If you want to spend 90 or 100 bucks, you can. If you want to spend into the 20s to 30s, then get this instead. It's pretty simple. Because I think even Prada L'Homme at one point was 80 bucks, 100 ml. Because I think even at one point Prada L'Homme was 80 bucks per 100 ml. Because I think even at one point in time, Prada L'Homme was 80 bucks for 100 milliliters all day long. Not anymore, 100 or so. Everything's gone up. That's just how it is. But one thing that's pretty sure is these clones are staying relatively consistent. Even though they've blown up all over the place, the prices on these haven't gone crazy yet. And I hope they don't because everything else is getting expensive. So if you want a cheap version of Prada L'Homme, nice soapy iris, this is it. Running down to the end, we're just about done. We have Emperor Genius Metallic. It's coming in at an Eau de Parfum concentration. Emperor is a clone brand that I guess is newer. Just haven't really heard about them much. I've covered a few of them here before. And this is actually a clone of 1 Million Lucky, which is another interesting choice. And again, might not make sense to some people, but here we go. Now these Emperors are pretty cheap. I think I've seen these down into the $20 range or so. So really, really reasonable. And 1 Million Lucky, you just can't get it on discounters anymore. It's always sold out. You can get it at retail for I think 120 or more. So another way to save some money. This has a lot of plum, hazelnut, aldehydes, some honey, really, really bizarre mixture of notes. A lavender in here too. It's strange, but that strangeness is what makes me like 1 Million Lucky so much. And I would say out of all the 1 Millions out there, 1 Million Lucky is probably one of the best right now. 1 Million Privé, fantastic, but gone. Milano Privé by Pandora Scents, or Paris Corner, one of the two, or maybe the same, is a great clone of that, but 1 Million Lucky clone right here. And we're going to finish this video off with Fragrance World, the one and only Moonlit Night, the one Luminous Night clone, which came into the community with a vengeance and just got everybody hooked. Luminous Night is a fantastic release, but it went away really, really quick. I mean, way quicker than all of the other exclusive editions, which have been out for years that have remained pretty consistently. Like Mysterious Night, Royal Night, those have been out for a long time. Luminous Night is like a year or so, and then it was gone. So Fragrance World, they did what they do best. They had our back, and they gave us a clone for like 30 bucks or so. Get you very close to that DNA. The dates, the sandalwood, creaminess, smells beautiful. All right, you guys, that's going to do it for me. 15 fantastic fragrance clones you're absolutely going to love. I will link each and every one of these down below so you can buy these if you do have any interest. I've got a mailing list and texting list you can sign up to, notifying everybody of the best deals and the rarest fragrances out there. When they come into stock, I'm on top of it. I'm telling you about it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you tomorrow with another one. Take care.